body, gentle yoga class. You might like to have a blanket or a towel, and you might like a couple of yoga blocks. If you don't have yoga blocks, you can use like mason jars or a couple of like step stools that are the same size, or some big heavy books or anything that might work just to lift the floor up a little bit. But they're optional, you don't have to have them. I'll guide us through it whether you do have them or don't have them. So with that, if you'd like to join, you're welcome to join in any way that works best for you. So that might be seated, and maybe you just begin by noticing your surroundings. So that could be noticing what you can see or what you can hear. You might begin to notice what it is that you can feel. And maybe that's your body on the mat, or the temperature of the room. Could be that you're able to notice a scent, or maybe a taste. And you're welcome to begin to notice your breath if you would like to. And if you don't like noticing your breath, you might notice the soles of your feet instead. But if you wanted to notice your breath, it might be that you notice when you take an inhale and when you take an exhale. And just noticing what you notice about your breath. Might be that you notice maybe that felt sense of the air as it comes in through the nostrils, and that felt sense as it flows back out. You might notice your body moving with your breath, but you might not. It could be that you're noticing maybe on your inhale you're aware of this movement of the inhale, like this movement of the body as it expands out with the inhale. And the movement of the body maybe as it comes back in on the exhale. And you're invited to continue noticing your breath if that feels useful. Or it might be that you'd like to begin to find movement. And you can do that in any way that works best for you. One way would be to bring one ear toward one shoulder. So as much or as little as you would like. And so if you did that, it might be that you notice some sensation through the open side of your neck. You might use that sensation to guide you into the shape that feels best for you. You might choose to be there in stillness, or you could find movement, like maybe you'd like to lift your gaze up some and then draw your gaze back down towards your armpit. So you can choose a movement. Maybe you're lifting your gaze and lower your gaze. Or maybe you're choosing to be in either of those variations in stillness. So as you move through this practice, you're always invited to change, modify, or make your way out of a shape at any time for any reason. You're also invited to find a variation of the shape or the movements that work best for you. So just knowing that there's no right or wrong way to move. And so you're invited to continue moving in that way, or being in stillness in that way, or if you want, you can come back in toward the center. You might choose to notice what it's like to be here. And maybe you'd like to try that on the other side. So maybe you'd like to bring the other ear toward the other shoulder. And just noticing what you notice. So it might be that felt sense of that sensation on the other side of your neck, or that open or extended side of the neck. You might choose to stay there, or you might be interested in movement, and you can do that in any way, but one way might be to draw your gaze down towards your armpit, and then you lift your gaze up toward the ceiling. So you can stay there, or you can find movement. So maybe you're turning the gaze down toward the armpit, lifting the gaze up toward the ceiling. So just stillness or movement as it works for you. And knowing that there's no right or wrong way to move, there's no good or bad. Just an invitation to notice what you notice about it. What's it like? And so you can continue the movements or the stillness in this way if you want. If you'd like, you might make your way back and toward the center. So coming back and toward the center, if you want, you can find movement with your arms. And so that might be maybe reaching the arms up toward the ceiling any amount. And maybe you're drawing your arms back down alongside the body. And you can be in stillness in either one of those variations, or you can continue the movement, maybe lifting the arms up and drawing the arms back down. And so then maybe it's an inhale as you reach the arms up toward the ceiling. And an exhale as you draw the hands back down alongside the body. So you don't have to link the breath up with the movement. That's also an invitation. You choose if that works for you or not. So just continuing that way as long as you'd like. At some point you can find a different variation, so it might be that you like to let your arms rest down alongside your body. Maybe you leave your left arm down toward the side. If you want, you can reach your right arm up toward the ceiling. And you might choose to leave it there. You can lift up and overhead if you want to, so that maybe there's a side bend. And you can choose to stay there if you want, or you can come back and toward the center, and then release the arm back down alongside the body if you choose. So you can stay there, or maybe you'd like to lift the other arm up toward the ceiling any amount. You might stay there, maybe reach that arm up and over toward the side. So staying there, coming back and toward the center. And so you can be in either one of these variations, or you can move through it. So maybe it's an inhale as you reach your arm up toward the ceiling. And an exhale as you lift up and overhead. So you can stay there if you want to come back and toward the center in your inhale. And then exhale as you release the arm. So opposite arm if you want. Inhale up toward the ceiling, any amount. Exhale up and overhead. You can inhale toward the center. And exhale as you release the arm. So just invitation to move through those. So invitation to let your awareness guide your breath, and the breath guide the movements of your body. And an invitation to find your body's own natural rhythm, to move in a way that feels best for your body today. And so continuing through those until you feel complete on both sides. Or you can continue in those movements if you want to. If you'd like to find a different variation, it might be that you'd like to reach both arms up toward the ceiling. And then as you, on your exhale, if you want, you can turn over toward the other side. The arms might come alongside the body. You could gaze to the side or behind your shoulder if you wanted to. So you could stay there if you wanted to. On your inhale, you might bring the hands into the center. And on the exhale, you could turn toward the other side. Gaze to the side or behind the shoulder. And then just moving through those at your own pace if you want. Might be an inhale toward the center. And an exhale over toward the side any amount, gazing wherever it feels best for you. So an inhale toward the center. And exhale over toward the side. And so know that these movements are your choice. So you choose how much or how little you're moving, how quickly or how slowly. And again, knowing that there's no right or wrong way to move, just moving in a way that feels best in your body today. And just noticing what you notice about the movement, what's it like? So awareness of the different sensations, maybe the sensations around the shoulders as you lift and lower the arms. Or maybe you notice the sensation of the movement around the core, the muscles around the abdomen, the low back. You notice movement or sensation around the spine. And whenever you feel complete with that, if you want, you might choose to make your way back and toward the center, however it works best for you. And when you feel ready, if you want, you can choose to find movement in different ways. So maybe we find some movement with your spine. If you want, you might lift your gaze, your chin, reach forward with your collarbones any amount. And as you do that, your hands might want to come back some. And so you can stay there, or you can go in the other direction. You might reach your hands forward, you might round your shoulders behind you, chin toward the collarbones any amount. So moving through this, if you want, it might be as you lift your gaze, reach forward with your chin. Your hands might come behind you. You might go in the other direction, round the shoulders behind you, chin toward the collarbones. And you can add the breath if you want. It might be an inhale as you lengthen through the front of the body, reach forward to the collarbones. And an exhale as you draw the shoulders behind you and your chin goes in toward your collarbones. So just moving through those at your own pace. And again, noticing what you notice. What's it like to move? I notice sensation maybe around the front of the body as you're lengthening through the front of the body. Right, notice sensation along the back of the body as you're lengthening along the back of the body. And again, choosing the variation of the movement that works best for you. There might be bigger or smaller movements. Maybe moving more quickly or more slowly. And whenever you feel complete with that, if you want, you might make your way back and toward the center. You might choose to extend one leg in front of you if you want. The other leg, it might bend so that the inside of the foot is anywhere toward the inside of the extended leg. You might choose to stay more upright. Or if you want, you're going to reach forward. You might reach forward to the collarbones any amount. And just noticing what you notice. Might be some sensation through the back of the extended leg. You can have your hands wherever you'd like. They might be in through the floor or maybe they're on your leg. And just choosing to be in this variation as long as you'd like. If you want, you're welcome to come back to more upright shape if you're not already there. And if you'd like, you can switch so you extend the opposite leg. And the other knee, so that inside of the foot is anywhere toward the inside of the extended leg. And with your upper body, you can choose to stay more upright, or you can reach forward to the collarbones any amount. Hands wherever you'd like, might be through the floor, might be through your leg. And noticing what you notice. So you might notice that sensation through the extended leg, the back of the extended leg. Invitation to stay here as long as you like. If you want, you can come back to a more upright shape. If you choose, you can bring the soles of your feet in toward each other. You might like to have your hands wherever you want. It might be through the legs, through the feet, or through the floor. And your feet can be closer towards your upper body, or they can be further away. So again, there isn't really a right or wrong way to be in this shape. Just a way that feels best for you. You might choose to stay more upright with your upper body, or maybe you'd like to reach forward any amount with the collarbones. And you're invited to stay there if you want to. If you'd like, you might choose to make your way in toward a table. And if you have a blanket or a towel and you're using it, if you want to, you can bring that blanket or towel underneath of your knees so that you've got this support underneath your knees if you want. So your knees might be about under the hip joints. You might have your wrist under your shoulders, give or take, maybe some distance between the fingers. And then if you want, you're welcome to notice maybe your hands in through the floor, your knees, your feet. I notice some length along the back of the body. Like you're reaching backward with the tail, forward at the crown. And you're welcome to stay there, or if you want to, you can choose to find some movement. So you might choose to lift through the tail, lengthen through the front of the body, lift the gaze any amount. You might draw your tail down around your shoulders up and away, chin for your collarbones. Maybe an inhale as you lift your tail, lengthen through the front of the body. And exhale as you draw the tail in toward the floor. Round, shoulders up and away. So just moving through at your own pace. If you want to, you can make your way in toward a puppy. So it might be that you'd like to walk your hands forward any amount. So your hips might stay over your knees. And you might begin to lower your forehead or your chin toward the floor. And gently press the hands into the floor if that feels right for you. And so you're welcome to stay here if you want to, or if you'd like to. On your inhale, you can come in toward a table. And on your exhale, you can draw your sit bones back down toward a child. So maybe your forehead comes down toward the floor. And then if you'd like to, on your inhale, you can rise back up and toward that tabletop shape. And on the exhale, you can walk your hands forward and lower your chin or your forehead down toward the floor for the puppy. So again, inhale as you come in toward the table. And exhale as you draw the sit bones down toward the heels for your child shape. And inhale as you rise in toward the table. And exhale as you walk the hands forward, lowering the forehead or the chin for the puppy. And so just moving through this in your own way. Inhale toward the table. Exhale toward the child. And inhale toward the table. Exhale toward the puppy. And as you're ready, if you want to, as you make your way back in toward a table, you might find an inhale here. And then on your exhale, you can choose to be in either variation. Maybe you want to draw your sit bones down toward your heels for a child shape. Or maybe you'd like to walk your hands forward for the puppy shape. And you can choose to be in any variation. You might choose to pause in either of those variations. Just noticing what you noticed. Maybe your hands into the floor, or maybe the knees and the feet into the floor. You might notice your breath. And it could be, if you wanted to, that you take your left hand and maybe you draw it down under your right arm. And so maybe your your left palm is facing the ceiling. And you might stay up more upright, or maybe you place the shoulder or your head under the floor. Your right palm might be through the floor, or you might tent up through the palm so that the fingertips come toward the floor and the palm is lifted. And breathe into the left shoulder here. And just noticing what you notice. What's it like to be in the shape? You're invited to stay there. If you want to, you might come back to a more upright shape. You might bring your left hand back into the floor. You might notice a breath or two as you pause. And then if you want to, you can bring your right hand under your left arm if you want, so that you're reaching the right arm forward any amount, maybe the palm toward the ceiling. You might draw your right shoulder toward the floor if you want. You might rest your head to the floor. You can leave your left palm flat to the floor, or maybe let it tent up, so coming up onto the fingertips if you want to. And breathe through the left shoulder if that feels right for you. Maybe ground into that felt sense. The hand, the knees, the feet into the floor. And as you're ready, you're welcome to rise back up. So you can come back into a table if you want. You might choose to pause there for a breath or two. You might like to pause into the table, or maybe you'd like to pause into the child. So you can lower your sit bones down toward your heels if you want. And you can be in this in any variation that you'd like. Like maybe your hands are reaching forward. Or maybe your arms are alongside your body with the palms up toward the ceiling. Maybe resting your forehead to the floor. So different variation, maybe you'd like to have your hands stacked on top of each other, like making fists and then stacking the fists on each other. Maybe you'd like to rest your forehead to your fist in that way. So there isn't a right or wrong way to be in the shape. They're just different variations. You're invited to choose the variation that works best in your body today. And just noticing what you notice about it. So maybe that's that felt sense of the body and through the floor. Maybe it feels right if you allow the body to rest and settle into the floor and pause here. Maybe you notice your breath. Just awareness of the inhale and awareness of the exhale. Just listening. way into a downward facing dog. So if you want, you can get your blanket out of the way if you were using it. And so if you choose, you can come into the table. You might walk your hands forward. There might be some distance in between your fingers if you want. You might lift and tuck the toes. You can plant the feet. Lift the knees from the mat and let the head come in between the arms. So you might be reaching forward with the hands and backwards with the feet. Right, reach back with the upper legs and draw the rib cage toward the upper legs in and out. Find lightness through the belly. Leave heaviness through the head. You can be still, you can draw one heel down toward the floor or the other heel down toward the floor if you want. There might be some sensation through the backs of the legs if you're choosing that. Just noticing what you notice. What's it like to be in the shape? You can choose to continue in this way. If you're walking it out, you can continue that. Or maybe you'd like to draw both heels down toward the floor, but maybe keep a soft bend with the knees. You might like to stay there if you want. You can lift your gaze up toward your hands and start to walk your feet forward any amount so that we come into a halfway lift. So maybe your hands are above or below the knees. And reach back with the sit bones forward, with the crown forward, with the collarbones. Might feel best for you to stay there. If you want to, you can bend into the knees and hinge forward for a full forward fold. And you might like to stay there if you want to. You can begin to rise up. You can rise up halfway up if you want. You can reach the arms up and overhead if you choose. And leave the arms up and overhead if you want. Bring the hands into the midline if you'd like. So you're welcome to pause here and just notice what you notice. Maybe your feet to the floor. Notice your crown lifting toward the ceiling. So you can stay here or find some movement. So you just do this variation of a half sun salutation. So it might be that you reach your arms up and overhead. If you want, you can bend through your knees and then hinge forward for a full forward fold. Welcome to rise about halfway up, hands to the shins if you want. You can fold forward, so bend through the knees and hinge forward with the upper body if you'd like. This time, if you want to, you might come all the way to standing arms up and overhead. Welcome to bend through the knees, lower the sit bones toward the heels. And if you'd like, you can plant and through the feet lift up to standing. And then release the arms into the midline if you want. Just going to add your breath to that if you like. It might be an inhale as you reach the arms up and overhead. And exhale as you bend the knees and hinge forward for a full forward fold. Inhale as you rise halfway up. Exhale to the full forward fold. Inhale, rise to standing arms up and overhead. Exhale to chair, bend the knees, lower the sit bones. Inhale back to standing as you reach up, look up. Exhale the hands into the midline if you choose. Inhale, arms up and overhead if you want. Exhale, bend through the knees, fold, forward, fold. Inhale, rise just halfway up. Exhale, fold, forward, fold. And then inhale as you rise, come to standing. Exhale, bend the knees, lower the sit bones for chair. And then inhale as you reach up, look up, stand up. And then exhale the hands up toward the midline. And pause there, ground through the feet, lift the crown. And grab on the collarbones if that feels right for you. And you're welcome to find some different variations if you want. So it might be that you'd like to come in toward a warrior one. You can step the right foot forward and the left foot back and out so that the hip points are facing forward. And you might choose to stay there if you want, or you can reach the arms up and overhead. So I notice some leg along the back of the body. And you're welcome to stay here. If you'd like, you can bend the elbows, open through the front of the body if you'd like. Maybe a little arc or a little back bend through the upper back. And so then if you want, you're going to reach the arms up and overhead. And then if you'd like to, you can let the arms come down alongside the back of the body as you reach forward to the collarbones and reach behind you with the fingertips. And so then we can move through these if you'd like. So it might be that on your inhale, you reach the arms up and overhead. And on the exhale, you open through the front of the body, a little arc through the upper back. And inhale as you reach the arms up and overhead. exhale the arms behind you, reach forward with the collarbones, backwards with fingertips. So inhale as the arms come up and overhead. Exhale as you open through the front of the body. Inhale, arms up and overhead. Exhale, hands reach behind you, reach forward with the collarbones. And if you want your inhale, you can come, reach the arms up and overhead. On the exhale, you can release the arms that come alongside the body. You might come up onto the back toe and step forward if you want. And then invitation to switch, so left foot forward, right foot back and out if you want to. So the points can face forward. Just the distance between the feet as much as it feels comfortable, like you can stand evenly with an even amount of weight through both feet. You can stay there and bend your left knee if you want. And you might choose to reach the arms up and overhead. If you want, you can open through the front of the body, a little arc through the back. And reach the arms up and overhead if you choose. And then you're welcome to stay there. The arms can come alongside the body. Reach back with the fingertips, forward with the crown, forward with the collarbones. And come back up with the arms up and overhead if you want. So you might inhale as you reach the arms up. Exhale as you open through the front of the body. You can inhale the arms up if you want. Exhale, arms behind you, reach forward to the collarbones if you like. Inhale, arms up toward the ceiling. Exhale as you open through the front of the body. Inhale, arms up toward the ceiling. And exhale, reach the hands behind you, reach forward to the collarbones. And then inhale, you're welcome to reach the arms up toward the ceiling. And as you exhale, you can release the arms alongside the body. You might come up onto the back toes and step forward. You might pause there, maybe with the hands in toward the midline if you choose. And just noticing what you notice. Might be your feet to the floor. Maybe lifting to the ground. You're welcome to stay there. If you want to release your arms down alongside your body, and if you have blocks, if you want to use them, you can place them toward the front and either side of your mat. So you're welcome to stay there if you want. If you'd like, you can take a step forward with your right foot again, step back and out with your left. So your hip points are facing forward. The distance between the feet again is just as much as it feels right. Like you can feel like you can comfortably evenly stand in through both feet. And you're welcome to stay there. If you want to, you can bend your front knee. And so if you don't have blocks, your hands might come to the top of your lip. And that might be where you want to be. If you do have blocks, if you want, you can have your hands come down toward the blocks. And if you don't have blocks and it's available to you, you might place your hands in through the floor. So any variation that you want to be in. And so you're welcome to pause there. So maybe with the front knee bent, just reaching back through the back heel, through the back of the body. Reach forward with the collarbones. And so you're welcome to find an inhale. And on your exhale, if you want, you can lengthen through the leg. So inhale. Maybe an inhale as you bend your front knee. And an exhale as you lengthen your leg. So an inhale as you bend the front knee. And then an exhale as you lengthen your leg. And you're welcome to pause in either variation, either with the leg lengthened or the knee bent. So wherever you are, welcome to just find neutrality in through the hips. So you don't feel like you're twisted open to one side or the other. You just feel like you've got a sense of neutrality in through the hips, the pelvis. Also welcome to find length in through the back of the body. Maybe reaching forward the collarbones with the shoulders out of the ears. And ground and through the floor. So you're welcome to stay there if you want to. You're welcome to come out of this. You might bend through the front knee, step the back foot forward, and then if you want, you can switch so that the right foot steps back and the left foot is forward. And so you might choose to be in any variation that works. It might be that your hands are to your other leg. You might have your hands in through blocks if you're using them. You might rather have your hands into the floor. So any variation that you want to be in, you're welcome to stay there with the knee bend. Or you might find an inhale as you bend the knee, and an exhale as you lengthen the leg. So an inhale as you bend into the knee, exhale as you lengthen the leg. And inhale as you bend the knee. And exhale as you lengthen the leg. Inhale as you bend the knee. And exhale as you lengthen the leg. And then just choose the variation that you want to be in. You might pause maybe with the leg lengthened or with the knee bent. And some neutrality through the hips, lengthening through the spine, shoulders and the ears. Whenever it feels right for you, you are welcome to make your way to standing. So maybe come up onto the back toes and step forward. I like to get your blocks out of the way, and you can come to standing if you want. So you're welcome to come into a warrior two variation. Which means you might step forward with your right foot and back and out with your left. So again, the stance between the feet is just enough so that you feel like you can plant evenly in through both feet. And so then you might choose to bend your right knee so it's somewhat over your right ankle. And you're invited to extend your arms away about shoulder height if you want. You can gaze forward over the right hand if you choose. And you're welcome to stay there. Or if you want to, you might have your right hand come in toward the center and the left hand come in toward the center at the same time. And the right arm might be over the left. And then if you want, you can bend the elbows so that the hands interlace around each other, or maybe the hands find your shoulders. So you're welcome to stay here. Or if you want to, you can move through these. So it might be as you inhale, as you extend your fingertips away from each other. And exhale as you draw the hands in toward each other. So inhale as you extend. And then exhale in toward the center. Inhale, extend. And then exhale in toward the center. And then you're welcome to switch. So extend the arms away from each other. Gaze over the right hand if you want. I'm going to stay there. You can release the arms. You can pivot your right toes in and switch so the left toes turn toward the short edge side of the mat and just adjust the feet as they feel best for you. So you can stay there, bend the left knee. You can extend your arms away if you want, gaze forward over your left hand. And you might choose stillness. Or maybe now your left arm wants to come in toward the center over your right. And then you can interlace the hands if you want to, or your hands to find your shoulders. So welcome to be in either variation that you want. Might be on your inhale, you like to extend the arms away. But on the exhale, you can have the hands coming toward the center. So inhale as you extend the arms away. Exhale toward the center. Inhale, extend away. Exhale toward the center. And inhale, extend away if you'd like. So you can pause there if you want. You can release. Just pivot the left toes in and the right toes toward the short edge side of the mat. I'm going to bend the right knee over the right ankle. You can extend your arms away if you want. So some of you like, you can reverse your warrior. So drop your back arm towards your back leg and spiral your right hand towards your face. Maybe a little bit of a back bend if you want. Strong back. And an open heart. You can stay here and come into a side angle. So maybe your right hand finds your right leg, or your right arm can find your right leg, and your left arm can reach out toward the ceiling if you want to. So inhale. And you're welcome to stay there if you want. Or you can plant through your feet and rise back up into the warrior two. So we can move through these if you want. It might be an inhale as you extend the arms away. Exhale as you reverse the warrior. Inhale into warrior two. And then exhale into side angle. So inhale into warrior two. Exhale, reverse the warrior. Inhale, warrior two. Exhale, side angle. So you're welcome to stay there. If you want, you can plant through your feet, rise back up to a warrior two. And then you can switch if you want. So release the hands, pivot the right toes in, and pivot the left toes toward the short edge side of the mat. And bend the left knee if you want. So extend the arms away, gaze over the left hand for warrior two on the side. Reverse the warrior if you want. So back arm toward back leg. Spiral the left hand toward the face. A little bit of a back bend if you want. Strong back, open heart. Come back into the warrior two with the hands extended. And side angle, left hand or left arm to your left leg. right arm toward the ceiling if you want. So you can stay there, plan through the feet, use the core muscles to rise back up into the warrior two. So maybe in your inhale you find the warrior two. Exhale, reverse warrior. Inhale, warrior two. Exhale, side angle. Inhale, warrior two. Exhale, reverse warrior. Inhale, warrior two. And then exhale, side angle. So you're welcome to pause there if you want. You can plan through the feet and rise back up into the warrior two if you choose. And then release your hands if you want. You can pivot the toes for the long edge side of the mat if you'd like. And then if you're using blocks, if you have blocks, you're welcome to find one. And it might be that you find that warrior two feet or stance. So pivot the right toes for the short edge side of the mat. Left toes are facing the long edge side of the mat. And find the distance that works for you. You can place your block to the inside or to the outside of your right foot. And it might be that you might like to place your right hand to the top of your right leg, or you might like your hand to come down towards your block. And so if you're not using a block, you might like your hand towards your leg. If you are using your block, you can bring your hand toward the block. Your left hand might come down toward the inside of your right leg. And then if you want to inhale, you can spiral or revolve open. So reach the left arm up toward the ceiling, inhale out. So you might press in through the pinky edge side of your back foot. And lengthen in all directions. Through both feet, through both hands. Reaching the crown away from the sit bone. And you can stay there if you want, or you can bend in through your right knee. Plan in through the feet, engage the core as you rise up. And then you can switch, so you can pivot your right toes in. Your block can come to the outside or inside of your left foot. You can pivot the left toes toward the short edge side of the mat. Right toes toward the long edge side. And so you just choose your variation. You can bend, you can have your left hand come to the top of your left leg, or it can come to the block that's to the inside or the outside of the left leg. And your right hand can come down to meet your left, or you can revolve it open so you can reach it up toward the ceiling if you want. And so then you might be pressing in through the pinky edge side of your right foot or back foot. As you lengthen in all directions, so down with the lower hand, up with the upper hand. And feel on the sides of the body. Just notice what you notice. So you're welcome to stay here. You might bend in through your left knee, plant through the feet, engage around the core muscles as you come back into warrior two. And make your way out of that if you want. So you can heel toe your feet, or step in, or step out if you'd like. And an invitation to find some balancing shapes. So you might ground in through the feet. Lift through the crown if you want. So you can choose to stay here. Or you might find your center. So ground through the feet, lift through the crown. An awareness of your edges, the outsides of your body. An awareness of your center. So you might bring your hands there if that feels right for you. Maybe you breathe into your center if you want. As you might notice on your inhale, this expansion in through the center. Or maybe notice the hands expanding gently with the inhale. And on the exhale, you might notice the hands with the stomach coming back in toward the center. So you're welcome to stay there. Notice what you notice. And then if you want to, you might begin to shift into your standing variation. So ground through the feet, open through the palms. You might shift into your right foot. You can come up on your left toes if you want. You might stay there or revolve the left leg out toward the side. So it's this external rotation through the left leg. The hip points are both still facing forward. You can stay there or bring the heel toward the standing leg. You can stay there, or you might imagine lifting the left toes up. Maybe if you want to, you can actually lift the left toes up, so any amount. And just choosing any variation that works for you. So maybe you like the toes lifted, maybe you like the toe toward the floor. And wherever you're at, just maybe find a spot in front of you that's not moving rest your gaze. And just an awareness of the foot into the floor. Just lifting or lengthening to the crown. So you're grounded, centered, focused, and balanced. And then as you're ready, you might draw your left foot toward the floor, and then lay your left knee forward, and then just pausing. So some people walk in place. You can roll through your ankles if you want. So you might choose to pause again, find your center, ground through your feet, lift through your crown. An awareness of your edges, and awareness of your center. If it's useful, you can bring your hands there. If you'd like, you can breathe into your center and notice what you notice. It might be that felt sense of the air, the breath, and through your center. And notice the hands moving along with the breath. And then as you're ready, you might release the hands and ground into your left foot. You might begin to come up on your right toes. So you can stay there, or externally rotate just the right leg, hip points stay forward. You might bring your heel to your standing leg. You might stay there, find a spot in front of you that's not moving, and rest your gaze. And you might choose to imagine lifting your right toe. If you want to, you might actually lift your right toe. And so any amount. And just coming into this in any way that works best for you. You can always make your way out of it whenever you feel like that's the best time for you. And so just wherever you are, grounded, centered, balanced, and focused. And so as you're ready, you might bring your right toes to the floor, draw your knee forward. And then if you want to, you're welcome to make your way back down toward the mat, and we can do that in any way. One way is to kind of flow into it. So if you want, you can inhale the arms up. Exhale, bend through the knees and hinge forward so the hands come down toward the floor. Welcome to step back with your right foot and knee, and then your left knee if you want, so that you come toward this table shape. And so if you like, you might choose to stay there, or you can take a step back with your right foot. So you might tuck the toes. You can reach the heel back as you reach forward with the collarbone, shoulders out of the ears. And if you want to, you can step your left foot back, maybe somewhat behind your left knee. So it's kind of like a kickstand. And your left wrist is in line with your left knee, and then you can roll open if you want so that your right foot is in line with your left knee, which is in line with your left hand. And if you want, you can reach your right arm up toward the ceiling. So you might choose to stay there if you want. If you like, you can inhale the arm up and overhead, and then exhale up toward the ceiling. So inhale as you lengthen, reach the arm up and overhead. Exhale back and toward the ceiling. You can inhale, reach up and overhead. And then exhale toward the ceiling if you want. And if you like, you can switch so that maybe your right hand comes in, you roll the right knee in, and then you can switch if you want. So that you take a step back with your left foot. You can tuck the toes under, reach back with the heel forward with the crown, shoulders out of the ears. And you can stay there if you want to, or if you'd like, you might begin to kick your right foot or step your right foot back behind your right knee any amount. Align your right wrist in front of your right knee, give or take, and then plant in through the sole of your left foot so that your left foot is in line with your right knee and your right wrist. And then if you want to, with your left arm, you can reach up and overhead. So you can stay there if you want, or you can move and breathe through it if you like. So on your inhale, you might reach up and overhead. And on the exhale, the hand might reach toward the ceiling. Inhale up and overhead. Exhale toward the ceiling. Inhale up and overhead. Exhale toward the ceiling. If you'd like, you can stay there, or if you're ready, you can roll the left hand back in, step the left knee in. You might choose to stay there. Or if you want to, you can come into crocodile shape, so laying down onto your stomach. You might cross the arms down and through the floor, step back so that you come on through the stomach, and you can rest your chin or your forehead in through your hands. And you might pause there, notice what you notice. Might be that felt sense of your body in through the mat. You can choose to stay here if you'd like. Or maybe you'd like to find just some different variations, some different movements. So maybe you'd like the hands under the shoulders, give or take. And just maintain this length through the spine. So you may reach the toes behind you, may gently press the hips into the floor. And then if you want to, you're just using the muscles of your back and your upper body. So your hands are there for support, but you're not really pressing or using the hands to lift. But if you want to, on the inhale, you can lift head, neck, and shoulders, and then exhale the forehead back toward the floor. So if you want, you can inhale, lift head, neck, shoulders, exhale the forehead back toward the floor. And then again, if you want, lift head, neck, shoulders, and then exhale if you want. You can cross the arms, rest the chin under the forehead through the floor. Just pausing, noticing, allowing. You might choose to stay there. You can find this variation of a half frog if you want. You can lift your right knee up toward your right elbow in and out. So it might not be lifting a lot. Maintain mostly neutrality in through the hips or through the upper body so that both hip points are mostly facing through the floor. Just allowing your body to find a variation of the shape that works best for you. And then coming into the shape in a way that feels both supported and easeful. Might choose to stay there. If you want, you can step your right foot away, lining it back underneath of the right hip joint. So finding some neutrality through the legs, through the hips. And then if you want to, you can start to walk your left knee out toward your left elbow. And so just any amount, but not so much that you're rolling it over toward the side. But the hip points are mostly facing through the floor. The upper body is neutral, spine is neutral. Just finding a variation that works for you. And breathing into the shape. Welcome to stay there. If you want to, you can step your left foot back. And find a moment or two in this neutral shape. As you're ready, if you want, you can make your way back up into the back into a table. So your hands might come on your shoulders. You can lift and tuck the toes, plant through the feet, and rise up into the table if you want to. You might just pause there for a moment or two. If you'd like, you can draw your sit bones down toward your heels and your forehead toward the floor if you want. Just noticing what you notice. Might be your hands to the floor, your knees, tops of your feet into the floor. And as you're ready, you're welcome to come to a variation laying down. So it might be that you come toward a table, walk the knees toward the sides if you want to, and then come toward laying down. So I want to find a full body stretch. You might extend the legs, point the toes, sweep the arms up and overhead for a full body stretch if you want. You might let your arms come down alongside your body. You can bend through the knees, plant the feet, the sit bones, have the heels comfortably close to the sit bones. And you might like to stay there. Or if you want, you can plant through the feet and the shoulders, lift the upper body toward the ceiling, in and out, reach forward with the knees. And then lower the body back down toward the floor. So you can add your breath if you want to. Maybe on your inhale, you lift the upper body toward the ceiling. On the exhale, you lower the body toward the floor. So inhale, as you lift the upper body toward the ceiling. And exhale, as you lower the body toward the floor. You can stay there if you want, or place your right ankle just below your left knee. Gently draw your right knee away. You can stay there if you want. Your hands might find your left leg. And so just enough. Not too much, not too little. And finding your just enough. Shape that feels best for you. You stay there if you want to draw your left foot down to the floor. And your right foot down to the floor. You just want to switch that the left ankle comes just below the left knee and gently draw the left knee away. So the left ankle just below the right knee. And then gently draw the left knee away. So you can stay there if you want, or draw your right leg in towards your upper body any amount. And finding your just enough. Right, find this balance between doing and being. So that there's this amount, this somewhat of a doing. Somewhat of a doing by finding our way into the shape and staying there. But also somewhat of a being. Being in the shape without thinking, or achieving, or striving. So you stay there, draw the right foot down to the floor, and the left foot down to the floor. If you want, you might like some distance in between the knees, some distance in between the feet. Let the knees come toward each other. And then if you want, you can draw the knees over toward one side, and then toward the other. And so just enough. Moving as much or as little as works best in your body. And at some point, if you want to, you might like to let the knees rest over toward one side. Adjust the feet as much as you want, closer together, further apart. Choose to rest there with your gaze toward the ceiling. Or you might choose to turn your gaze away from your knees. And just noticing what you notice. You might notice your breath through your center, your body into your neck. You can stay there if you want to bring your gaze back up toward the center. And switch if you'd like, so maybe your knees come up toward the center. And maybe draw the knees for the other side. You can gaze toward the center, or turn your gaze away from the knees. And noticing what you notice. Right, become aware of your breath. Awareness of the body through the neck. And so you're welcome to stay here. Or if you want to, you can draw your knees back up toward the ceiling, your gaze toward the ceiling. And then finding any variation that works best for you to rest. And so maybe that's with your knees toward the ceiling. Maybe you'd like to extend the legs away. Like both hands through the stomach. One on the stomach, the abdomen, the other just below the collarbones. And then just allowing the body to settle into the mat. And maybe this awareness of the crown of the head. Awareness of the shoulders, the arms, the hands. And awareness of the back of the body, the front of the body. Awareness of the upper legs, the lower legs, and awareness of your feet. So I'm going to stay silent for about 60 seconds. You're welcome to spend that time in any way that works best for you, with your eyes open, your eyes closed. So I'm going to stay silent for about 60 seconds, starting now. just beginning to blink your eyes, open and closed. You might begin to move your head from side to side if you want. A little with the fingers and the toes. And roll through the wrists and ankles. And move out the arms and your legs. Any stretch or movement that you still need, you're welcome to find it. You'd like to roll to your side. And eventually making your way to a comfortable seat, however that works for you. You're invited to close practice with the breath if you want. So you might have your hands wherever that works. Maybe that's through your legs, through the midline, or somewhere on your body. And the close practice will breathe together, so we'll exhale first. So if you want to, you're going to exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Thank you for your practice.